I would like to start off with letting Chen and Chiragh introduce briefly their businesses, Fave and Ayopop, who have been one of our early adopters for MoEngage in the Southeast Asia region, and then we'll take it from there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot, Ravi and MoEngage for the invite. I'm CC from Fave. So I think for Fave, in Indonesia, maybe we are not that known yet, but I think basically what we built upon is we started from back in 2016, we acquired Groupon Indonesia. So back then, this was Groupon Indonesia, so we acquired that business. And I think from there, we basically built upon to build into a merchant super app and basically build multiple services. And if you think of Fave, what Fave is doing is think of what a big chain restaurants can do, what the likes of Starbucks or the McDonald's. What Fave tries to do is how can we translate all those services that the big players can do into simple things that every cafe, every restaurants, mom and pop shops can have it in the easy way without any capital spend. So I think that was what we go on. Let's say McDonald's have the big ordering machine that they can afford all the capital spend to build it. How can any businesses can have it in their phones and make it free cost? So I think that was what we go on and digitize one service at a time. So we now have the digitized bunch of the services from, let's say we started from the vouchers, digitize the paper vouchers into digital vouchers, then digitize the loyalty cards or loyalty app into any businesses that want to do a cashback back to the same shops. We digitize the stamp card, those places we go there when after people go visit first time you do a stamp. Right now, we can track where the stamp goes, and we digitize the off-peak hours, table orderings, and then we also work on businesses and say leverage on data for enable young new businesses to get lending from banks and other institutions. So I think these are the journey that we started. We are still quite young, 2 years old in this pathway, but basically building services for F&B and then for offline retail, beauty wellness, and other industries.
Great. Chiragh?
Hey, thanks, Yash, for the invite. So my name is Chiragh. Good to have be here today. So Ayopop is actually a bill payment app. We started out in 2016, primarily focused around tier 2, tier 3 cities, where we focus in why users should walk to XYZ store or an offline station to pay their bills when they can manage it, and smartphone penetration is actually picking up really well in Indonesia. So I think we're a 3-year-old company now, and we're about 100 people. Still relatively small compared to the rest of the big guys in the room as well. So, yeah, that's a little bit of what we do.
That's great. So I would like to start off with asking a question about when you guys. I would like to take you like 3-4 years back, and then if you can share some sense around why did you pick this market or this business idea versus many others, and how did you see some market need? This is something like probably very relevant for a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs in the room as well. Do you want to start?
Okay, yeah. So I think like for us back then, Joel and myself, we used to be working in Groupon. So Joel used to build Group Small, similar like this dudes here, and then got sold to Groupon. That was in early 2011. And then we were in Groupon for 4 years. So we managed to, in 2013 and 2015, we were managing Groupon Asia. So at that time was managing $1.6 billion in Asia, 3,000 employees, 12 countries, 50 offices. And I think in 2015, the moment of YOLO coming, you only live once. So we decided that, okay, maybe time for us to drop everything, quit everything, and rebuild. So I think that moment came, and we had a non-compete against Groupon. So we actually went on and built K-Fit, which is a fitness. I know K-Fit and me doesn't work. People call me K-Fat, so unfortunately. So we did that for 1 year, retained the talents that we had. So a bunch of people from Groupon left together with us, and we stayed on there. And then after a year plus, so in 2016, we went on and did the acquisition. So we started acquire Groupon Indonesia, Groupon Malaysia, and Groupon Singapore. And then basically take the things that we want, traffic, merchant data, consumer data, database and stuff, and then basically move those things to Fave. But we decided that to rebuild a new brand. We decided that we're going to rebuild the technology, so all the services and tools, everything rebuilt, and basically move from there. So that took us from Q3 of 2016 to Q2 of 2017. And in 2017 Q3, that's when we started to say, how can we now build on the services? And today we haven't built a lot of depth in Indonesia yet, because I think that today there's a few giant players here. So I think today we are watching what can we do and what we can't directly do. And I think in different markets we sort of observe. So I think being a small startups players is pick the place that you can play. So let's say which market you can do, which services you can do. So let's say example in Malaysia, the players that doing similar way, let's say in terms of payments, they're all giants, right? So the likes of Alipay, WeChat, Grab, Maybanks, and all those things. So they're all maybe 100 times bigger than us. They have maybe 100 times or 1,000 times more money than us. We cannot play head on. So I think being a small player, what we often do is being the fast fish, fastest player, and being nimble and choose where we can play. If they all focus on there, let's focus here. And I think I like what I think you mentioned just now on tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? So I think there's a way, like a lot of times is how do we avoid the crowded space and play on other area. So let's say, for example, in Malaysia or Singapore, all the players are focusing on consumer. We said that we are going to, yes, it will hit the consumer eventually, but we're going to focus on merchant. We're going to make the restaurants and retailers love us. If restaurant and retailers love us, they are going to encourage their customers to use us. Instead of building for consumer, we build for restaurants. So let's say, example, one thing is a cashback, right? So in those markets, the cashback were all, including here, I think OVO, GoPay, the cashback are back to consumer to use anywhere in the platform. We decided that the cashback will only be used in the same shop, same merchant, same outlet, or same brand. And that makes it more restrictive for consumer, but that makes it more preference for the merchant. So that was the one play that we decided to choose to go, right? So I think, and then we decided that we're not going to build an e-wallet because there's so many e-wallets out there, we're going to partner and integrate. So let's say we integrate with OVO here, we integrate with GrabPay in Singapore, Boost in Malaysia. So we choose the path that we think we can play rather than go play against others that we can't play.
Got it. I think you talked about, what not to do a lot, and I think that's a very key part of this strategy. I'll let Chiragh talk about, how did he identify this specific market category, and also at what point you felt that this is a category that you want to scale upon.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, by the way, guys, go orang Indo, go lahir di sini. So I'm just telling them that actually, I'm actually born and brought up in Indonesia. So, but I went to get my experience in India. I was working there as well. And when I came back here, I came back for my parents, and that was in late 2015. And my parents told me now the whole household responsibilities and the bills and everything is on your plate. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll start paying the bills. But then, remembering due dates, remembering bill dates, and subscriber IDs, everything was very broken. And you had to walk or go to an ATM machine to pay staff, or you had to go, far away to do all your bills. And it's very scattered. So what we realize is there's a big gap here, and I partnered with my co-founder, which back then was working with Lazada before pre-acquisition of Alibaba, and both of us teamed up to see that this is a huge gap in Indonesia. Even today, the experience is still broken. People in rural Indonesia still walk miles or go with their bike, even in the night. If your token listrik, for example, your electricity, which is prepaid in Indonesia, which is very different than other markets in the world, if it shuts down, or where would you go, especially if it's raining? So you need solutions there, and I think that the market is huge. We identified that, and we're still doing our bit to make it better.
So you basically chose a pain point, personal pain point, and then you saw that the market is huge, so then you started scaling it up. So
yeah, the pain point exists for a huge market.
Huge amount of segment.
A lot of people on average Indonesian pay 6 to 7 bills a month as well. So we look at it as from a market standpoint and went into it.
Got it. And do you want to briefly, Chiragh, do you want to briefly talk about the scaling up learnings, like what's been your go-to-market strategy, and once you figured out that there is something that you want to scale it up, how did you went about it? If you can talk briefly through that.
Sure. So in the early days, actually, we're still relatively small, I would say, and the product team is very lean, including myself. We're just about 4 or 5 people, in fact. in the entire company. So I think in the early days, what we did is we kind of scoped out saying that we're going to go after student community. And we wanted to do, with every purchase, you get a voucher. And we teamed up with a lot of brands to give the vouchers, but soon to realize that the product assortment that we had in those days wasn't sufficient for the segment that we're actually catering to. And the vouchers didn't work out as well. So it was a big learning. We went to the drawing board, we understood what we wanted to do, and we started adding more assortment. We tweaked the segment that we were catering to, the age group that we wanted to cater to, and then found, hey, now things are, product market fit is starting to happen, and that gave us a good validation post that. Yeah, but it took us about 1 year to figure that out. I mean, while doing a lot of things, we did a lot of experiments in terms of doing, for example, outdoor booths. We sponsored college events, school events, and so forth, but never saw the results. And we were like, hey, that's marketing dollars going waste. So yeah.
Got it. So would love to understand from Chen, CC as well that, I mean, you obviously started with a K-Fit and then again pivoted to Fave. I mean, obviously, I think there must be a good amount of experiments that went through this process. I think even at Fave, I think you kind of made a lot of experiments. I mean, some things that I remember itself. So do you want to talk about like how you went through scaling up? Probably start with the pivoting phase and then the scaling up. I think this is definitely a tough journey.
So I think like when we were in KFit, so that was in maybe Q2 2016, right? We were still a fitness company. So if you think on it, in Q2 2016, we were a fitness company. Q2 2017, we were a deals company. And Q2 2018, we were a marketing platform, right? Deals and FavePay. And Q2 2019, now we are a merchant platform, right? So there's an iteration as we go along. And I think each time when we pivot, it's actually scary, but I think we have done it through a few rounds. I wouldn't say it's completely shift of model, but it's sort of expansion through, right? So let's say fitness. When we had a fitness, people that can afford to go to fitness studios, gyms, generally they are higher, upper middle class consumer. They spend a lot more. So let's say our average consumer spend maybe $50 per month for a subscription. So that gives us a higher quality consumer to come into play. So then from that consumer, then we went on and tried to sell them massage. Then we started to sell them buffet deals and everything and crossing. And then when we acquired Groupon, what we did, we decided that is we want to basically migrate it in the shortest time possible. So when we did the Indonesia that time, after we bought the Groupon Indonesia, we migrated in 8 months. And then when we bought Malaysia, we decided to migrate in 3 months. And then Singapore is 2 months. So each time we basically sort of learn how do we do that process and basically we build a sort of playbook to do that. So I think the process of it is like telling ourselves that, I still remember that, let's say when we bought Singapore in March 2017, we declare a date 60 days later, it will be shut down. Groupon Singapore will be shut down and it will be going in. And a lot of time take tough decisions. So back then, Groupon Indonesia, consumers were printing out vouchers. And maybe some of you may remember back then you buy a voucher, you actually had to print out a paper. And we actually made a call and said that in Indonesia as well, we are not going to accept any paper voucher. Any businesses that don't want to take a paper digital voucher, we will not work with them at that point. And it was scary, risky, and in the end we got 98% of businesses that were on Groupon Indonesia continue with us on Fave Indonesia, moving 100% digital. And at the time, of course, internally there's debate, right? Can we do it partial? Can we do exclusion? And I think our standpoint was no, let's do 100%, because that will make the process very seamless. So I think a lot of time during those pivoting points, you want to make tough decisions. And a lot of time the best way for startup to make tough decisions is actually after fundraising. Once you have money in bank, so a lot of these tough decisions we made was after we fundraised, right? So let's say when back then in KFit time, we were having an unlimited subscription. That means you can pay a fee and go unlimited times. And after our Series A, we decided that we're going to limit to 10 times. So we basically announced it and we say that anyone that cancel, please cancel. And if you want to go more than 10 times, you can buy 2 subscriptions. And what we found is, yes, there's some group consumer complain. When we asked them, why don't we give you back your money? They said, no, no, no. And after that, some of them buy double, triple. So our business actually went up after we restrict, right? So it was an interesting play to see what to do and where to do. And the other one is the price increase. So then when we decided that we're going to fully focus on this and don't look into K-Fit, what we did was we actually increased the price by 40% to make it a profitable business. And then we don't need to think about it for a while, right? So we basically just upped the price 40%. What we declared to all existing subscribers was all the existing subscribers will continue to enjoy the old price until the day you cancel. And all the new customers will be on the new price. So the existing customer became happier. One thing in metrics that interesting we found was the churn rate dropped by 50%. Because whenever they want to cancel, we'll tell them that, hey, you are not going to get this price anymore if you one day come back. So they don't cancel, so we churn rate dropped by half. Initially, the acquisition rate was slower, but after some time, people know that we're not going to go back to that old price, so people actually pick it up. And eventually, it balanced through. So it was so I think a lot of time is taking analytics scaling. In terms of, let's say, for the last month, I throw a challenge to the team. At that time, we were about 23 cities, and I throw the team and say, how about we launch 5 cities in 5 days? I know, because the team were at a pace of launching about 2-3 cities a month. And I was like, okay, 5 cities, 5 days. A crazy challenge to the team. And the team able to deliver, right? Sometimes it's throwing quite an impossible challenge, but the team sometimes will be tested and be able to rise to the occasion and make it happen. So last month, we ended up launching 9 cities, right? And make it through. So I think a lot of it is finding the fit and then scaling. So I think a lot of times scaling is just throw the challenge much, much bigger, right? And like let's say back then when this was in October 2017, that time we launched Penang, and the first month was $20,000 US sales. And then I was telling the team that said December, so I asked the team to set that was October, to set a December target, 2 months later target. So my team came back and told me and said the target to set is $80,000 US, which is 4 times for the new cities. And basically my reply to the team is, looks like you're not interested to do, let me find who else is interested. And then my team told me it's unfair, you're unfair. And I say, yes, I'm unfair to people that I think have high potential. And eventually, the team set the goal at $250,000 US, which is 12.5x, and they delivered $360,000 US, which is 18x in 2 months, right? And a lot of time it's just that do I know how to achieve $350,000 $1,000? I actually don't know. But it just throws some crazy, stupid idea, and they make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think setting some of these goals and then pushing them, I think that's very important, right? Chiragh, I would like to point the question of like, what are some growth metrics that you kind of actively look at, like in terms of to measuring the growth of the company, and also probably from the health of the business? I mean, what are some metrics that you look at?
Yeah, I think, we definitely, track what's the customer acquisition cost, what's our margins that we take, on daily and on weekly and on monthly basis. And I think the churn the churn rate, and also the transacting users and so forth. Transacting users post churn, so that's retaining. And yeah, that's.
And how do you drive kind of create a growth culture in your team?
Yeah, I think
like in your product and marketing team.
Sure. So in the early days and even today, I think what we do is we get the marketing team, we get the with even us, for example, the product team, we deep dive and we say, hey, let's do these set of experiments, or this is what we're targeting, this is our segment that we want to cater to. How can we grow this by 2-3x for this month? And let's figure out what all experiments can we do, whether it's on the product side, whether that's on the marketing side. What can we improve? What's going wrong here? Why this is dropped, or what can we do there? And we derive those experiments and we say, hey, let's do that, and we see how can we achieve it. So I think for us, we haven't seen 1 or 2 it's not that one thing which will drive crazy growth, but it's a multiple of smaller things that gives results. Yep. So out of the 20 experiments which we do on monthly basis, some will work, some won't. Like for example, we redesigned the home screen. We saw good conversion in terms of pickup. We added trust text. So for example, because the platform is such that I'm buying on this app and I don't really know if there are whatever, 100,000 others who are buying it at that same time. So we added text like, hey, by the way, X number of people are also purchasing at this point, or have bought it, or have done top up in the last whatever 24 hours or last hour, and that built a lot of trust for the users. That showed a little bit more jump. So it's various experiments, I would say.
Got it. CC, do you want to talk about any metrics that you look at?
So I think like for me, I live and breathe numbers. I think my team knows that. So I think one thing that on a short run, I think I maybe talk a short run, mid run, and long run, right? So short run is every hour, basically bunch of metrics I look at is basically from midnight to whatever hour. So let's say midnight to now 2 p.m. And basically look at across board the basic metrics, right? Number of new customers, number of repeat customers, total transactions, the GMV dollars, the promo code spend, the number of the gross profits, number of page views, unique users, and everything. So there are a bunch of metrics as split by category, split by city, split by business model. And I think those I look at hourly to basically look through. And then I think on a daily basis is we basically do on run rate basis and basically measure the basically entire top funnel of the P&L. So all the way from the top till the gross profit level, and then from unique customer, new customers, frequency, how much promo spend per transaction, total GMV per user per month, and all those kind of things. So basically track through all the metrics, which payment methods and everything, right? And I think it is very data-driven metrics through, and I think it's one single way. And I don't think that you should put everything at day one, but basically the way I do is just launch a tracking, and then every week add on something into that. And I think on a more marketing standpoint, we look at cross-sell, right? Let's say which product to which product, which vertical to which vertical, the cross-sell, how many percent consumer get cross-sell, how many consumer bought 2 services, 3 services, 5 services, which of the merchants that get how many services, and the frequency for merchant or frequency for consumer, like how many merchants receive 50 customers a day and above, right? And then of course the other one is a waterfall cohort chart. That's we'll watch it daily on a batch per batch basis. So the value of customers across board, retention rate, and the GMV dollar, GP dollar, transaction level for every cohort, for every business model for the consumer. So I think is analyzing that, and the same thing for merchant. So I think the goal is to be able to enhance the quality per cohort, right? So let's say example today at Singapore level, the customer that who bought, let's say in March, we know that 70% of them will buy in April. That means we will spend some money in April. So this metrics was maybe 40% 1 year ago. And basically it's continuously focused to push it through, right? Malaysia, this metric is at 50% right now. So I think it's constantly looking at that. And I think what we measure is what we're going to drive the action towards. And I think what we do is set an OKR across the whole company. So that the whole company, and I think talking about Growth Summit, in January, we actually brought all our team in all the countries to Malacca. And basically 300 over people spent 3 days, 2 nights talking about growth, right? And basically all aspects, and everyone know exactly what's the goal. And we throw a crazy challenge. I don't know where we'll hit it. We throw a challenge of hitting $1 billion top line by end of next year. Scary moment, but I think for us, it's think big. And if we fell short, maybe hopefully we fall not too far behind. And I think it's just stretching it and trying it. And we don't know how to get there, but we know the direction we want to go to, and every day just get one step closer to it.
Yeah, I think the Growth Summit is a great idea. I think we should also, we'll also do it internally at MoEngage. I think they're all really good metrics, right? So, but how do you get your, even like a marketing manager or a product manager to think that data-driven? That's the hard one, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I think for anyone that need discussion, I think a bunch of us are very data-driven. So any discussion with me, if they don't come with a number, the meeting ends, right? So meeting does not continue, right? So it all talks on numbers. And I think in our office, we actually had posted in here, office here as well, without data is just an opinion. So we don't continue conversation if no numbers. Every experiment need to know what is success looks like. Because a lot of the pitfall is you do an experiment, you actually don't know what is success. When you see results, then you try to evaluate. But you should know that what you try to achieve on that. And I think one thing to compare also is during promotion. So let's say right now you have a weekend promotion. The metrics to compare is actually not the weekend before promotion and the weekend during promotion. The metrics to compare is the weekend before promotion and the weekend after promotion to see whether there's a behavior change. Right? Because if you throw promo and people spend during promo, people stop spending when you don't have promo, you actually haven't done anything justice to the customer. And the worst case, the consumer build a habit and they only spend when you have promo. Then you are constantly like a drug to continue fund that, right? So it's how do you enable that and see the behavior change that you don't need a promo and people will continue to do it. Of course, there will be still some groups that are stuck on it is how do you behavior change for more people?
I think that's a great advice for the marketing teams specifically who run a lot of promos. Any advice, Chiragh, from you on how do you ensure your marketing managers also make data-driven, and any advice for them?
I think we've been fortunate to hire one of the best in the industry as well. We had Ahmad, who was CMO of Lazada and ex-Shopee as well, to join Ayopop recently, and we've been very data-driven and looking into the metrics to actually improve the experiments and do stuff. So, but we generally do brainstorming sessions to basically deep dive to understand hey, this is where we need to improve, and what are the kind of experiments which will actually work towards that, and let's see the results on daily basis. So that's a little bit of how we approach it.
Got it. Do you have any advice that you want to share with aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think it's focus on a problem. Fall in love with your problems that you try to solve. Don't fall in love with solutions that you try to do. In the end, is ask yourself what makes you, all of you here, right? Let's say, especially entrepreneurs, all of the people here have many options to do. Today, you want to be a CEO in many other companies, you actually can get hired and get paid a lot. And many people actually choose to be an entrepreneur, getting much lower paid, poorer lifestyle, no work-life balance and everything, right? And it's a choice point. And I think as you go on it is, what's the motivation behind it, right? What makes you wake up on a Monday morning and say, yes, I want to build on this? What keeps you every day to basically be there? I know that, let's say we went through fundraising and everything, there are a lot of tough moments. The news said that you raised X dollar. The news didn't tell you that the weeks before the fundraising is looking at the bank account dwindling, the scary moment.
And
right?
A lot of no's.
Right? Yeah, so the last round, before our last round fundraising, we got 62 no's before the 63rd one said yes. How is it going to face the 62 rejection? Right? After 10 rejection, it's tough. Right? And I think a lot of mental part. So I think as an entrepreneur is knowing your true north. And I think aspiring entrepreneurs as well, right? Many people working in the fast growth startups eventually went on and built your own next startup as well, and your current venture together with the founders and building on it. I think it's a lot is knowing what makes you wake up and every day, right? I think for me, a lot of time is looking at the team, the people that who joined us back then as an intern, as a fresh grad, today, how far have they gone beyond? The businesses that we work with, have they grown? Have they transformed? Have we been doing job creation for others, right? And I think a lot of it is go back to the core. What makes you do that, right? Because to make money, doing a startup is not the easiest way to do it. And I think if you go back to the true north, I think that will keep you going through especially the tough time.
I think Chiragh,
I think if today, while we're speaking about growth, right, I would say, once you achieve the product market fit, it's the growth market fit stage. And I think we're literally currently in that stage where we're, keep experimenting, but don't be scared of doing mistakes as well. So I think what you need to understand is don't always want to, of course you want to succeed and you want to get it right, but do something which may be outside the box, or probably thinking that, hey, this might not work or this is silly, but it may turn out to give very good conversion or, better metric as well. Yeah,
great. I think that's fantastic advice from both. One last question, like any books that inspired you that you would want to recommend to the audience here? Yeah, any books that you think you basically inspired, or some good stories.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of great books. I think a lot of times it depends on context. Maybe I won't put a name, but I think a lot of it is that, I think, based on contextual. So let's say, example, at a moment when we need to optimize costs, maybe a certain book, I think a certain C or rate in the, I can't remember the exact name, is maybe the best book at that time. Maybe you want to deal with pivoting. Maybe another book will come from there, right? And maybe we're starting 0 to 1 will be a good book. So I think it depends on stages. So let's say for me, I actually built a mini library at my home. I have maybe about 500 business books sitting in my house. And to be honest, most of the book I haven't read cover to cover. I use it in contextual. So when I face a challenge, I go through my libraries and look within my books and say, which books should I read, which chapter should I read? And maybe I'll pick 4 chapters from those few hundred books to say, read these 4 chapters to try to solve this problem.
Anything?
No, I wish I had the time like Mr. Chen. But you know, I think honestly, I don't have much time to actually read the books. I actually open Twitter and I browse there. There's a lot of good people sharing a lot of good links. Some podcasts as well. I listen to them, and those are really helpful in terms of yeah.
Sure, I'll open it up for questions now for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah. Do you have any questions? Please raise your hand and identify yourself first. Anyone? We'll get a voucher from Ayopop and Fave.
Yep.
Kidding.
Any questions?
Any questions? Yep. Can we have mic for? All right, sir, please stand up and identify yourself first.
Hi, Tess. I'm Windo from Pomona. I'm in charge for the growth of the Pomona itself. So basically, I would like to ask some of questions. The first one is regarding for the product market fit. Like, do you have like one key metrics that can tell us that we have a product market fit and we need to grow as fast as possible? That's the first one. And then the second is what marketing channel that drives the higher retention for the users aside from ads? What your just go-to marketing channels that can grow your business, that will increase the revenue or recurring revenue or just higher retention, but aside from ads? Thank you.
I'll let
Thank
either
you,
of you
sir.
take. I think the first question is, I think, pretty subjective one, but it's an important thing for every consumer company. That what is that some metric that you can see that you achieved product market fit?
So I think I mean, if you're transactional in nature, I think it's just all about number of transactions. For us, when we hit 1 million transactions and in a month, so I thought that hey, that's actually time where we've hit product market fit, and now it's now the growth phase starts. Growth market fit stage.
I think product market fit, the way I look at it is, if you can take away all the advertising and it continues to scaling, then I think that you sort of hit it, right? And then after that, when you spend marketing to it is to fuel the growth to make it faster, right? So the way you look at it is the advertising and spend. If you can't really buy the real growth. You need to get the product to generate the growth, and then you make it much faster. So I think that's how I would look at it. And I think go back to retention is quite similar as well. I think like, let's say for ours, the retention is actually the concentration of restaurants or outlets at a certain location. So in a mall, once I have 30% or more outlets in the mall having Fave, then the consumer became very sticky, because then they can basically find what they need to eat in that mall. If I only have like 5%, then it's very tough. So back then, maybe one thing back then when we first started, how do we in a way put Groupon into a corner to sell to us? So it's actually that we only had 3 salespeople at a time. They have 40 salespeople. They focus on multiple areas and multiple categories. What we did was we actually went into food in 3 business areas. So think of let's say SCBD or whatever, a small area in that, or in a mall, Grand Indonesia, and you basically go there and dominate that mall and build the locality strength in it, hyper-local, and then you win over the metrics on there, right? Supply, demand. I think especially marketplace, in essence, supply, demand, and interactions, right? And another point on product market fit in the end is that how to make it cost sustainable. For every incremental transactions that you're going to get, the gross profit you're going to get is more than the cost to get the transactions, right? And if you say that the acquisition cost is higher, then the question is how much higher? When can you do the payback? Does your graph show a payback or no payback? And I think one thing to look at over a period of time is that the frequency of transactions for a user as the user gets longer into the product, is it the graph that go higher and higher, or is it flat, or is it going downwards, right? And at the very least need to be flat, ideally is upwards, right? So that means in month 2 they use 2 times, month 3 they use 2.3 times, month 4 they use 2.5 times, even you 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, right? So eventually the longer they are with your product, the more sticky they are. Then that's when the real product market fit that you can really invest a lot into it.
Got it. Any other questions?
My name is Audrey. I own a UX UI design agency. So
Sorry, your name is?
Audrey. So my question is there a framework to guide a startup moving from rapid experimentation to rapid implementation?
So the question is about how do we move from rapid experimentation to rapid implementation. Is that correct?
If there's a framework
to move faster from rapid experimentation to rapid implementation, how? I think probably they mean similar.
Yeah, I think what we don't actually have a framework as such, but what we do is we just deep dive and say that, you know, hey, this is something that we want to achieve in this 1 week, we want to achieve within the next 2 weeks, and we want to see results. And there's a KPI as well, put target saying that, hey, we want to achieve, you know, X growth or what this is. So that's a little bit of what we do, especially with early stage startups. I think it's all about getting into the, you know, getting your hands down and doing the experiment rather than, you know, being caught up around the process.
Yep. I think quite similar. I think we don't think that much on the concept or those kind of thing. I think in the end is values that we take is think big, start small, fail fast, scale faster. Yeah. Right? So I think it's what's the fastest speed you can launch it or deploy it, whether you call it experiment, implement, or whatever you call it, right? Just launch it and see the tractions. For me, it's every day I demand the team to have a record breaking, right? Yes, the first day you do whatever, you get 8 transactions. The next day must be more than 8, right? And every single day must be a record breaking. And then if you can constantly doing everyday record breaking, the business will get somewhere, right?
Correct.
And I think it's just go on it. And I think you just set a budget to try. So each time there's something new, you say, okay, how big this can be. And for us, it's usually within 3 months. My goal is to get to 1% of the company business. So if any initiative within 3 months can't get to 1% company business, likelihood will kill it.
Got it.
All right, is it clear enough for you, Ms. Audrey?
Are we out of time? Yep. Okay. Oh, sure. So CC has one promo code to share with everyone, so which you can, you can talk about.
So if you don't have Fave, just download Fave. Promo code is very straightforward. Growth 19.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah. Awesome.
All of us at MoEngage would definitely use it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a promo code.
But you can create one.
But Ayopop is hiring, so if those of you, we're growing our growth team, and we're about 12 members in the growth team, so please do reach out. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, CC and Chiragh, for sharing valuable insights.